Oh dear God. Hello everybody, welcome to round 5 of XTC here from Circuit of the Americas, one of the premier racing circuits in the United States, located in Austin, Texas. Circuit of the Americas, also known as COTA, is the premier destination for world-class motorsports and entertainment in the United States. Set on 1,500 acres in the rolling hills just outside downtown Austin, Texas, Circuit of the Americas has hosted the biggest names in racing, action sports, and music since 2012. The 20-turn counterclockwise circuit takes advantage of the naturally undulating landscape, including an intimidating 133-foot hill at Turn 1 that must be seen in person to be believed. The circuit also continues to be a leader in environmental awareness and sustainability, and has helped make advances in educational and scientific fields, including solar car technology, as well as racing and consumer automotive technology. And with that, my name is Alex Andersen. I am joined by Tom Dillon in the commentary booth, with Adam Thompson running cameras in our virtual production truck. And we are here with about a minute and a half remaining in qualifying here. And we are set for a not really a long race, but a decently long race for XTC here. Double their normal stints with an hour and a half long race, which is surely to shake up some strategies, Tom.
Absolutely, and don't be fooled by the fact that we haven't got too many drivers on the grid this evening. By my reckoning, we only have 15, but it should be a race that is just as harshly fought as all the other ones that we've had this season, purely because the pit stop strategy, Alex, and I know I talk about it every single week, but it's extremely important this time around, as we're expecting 3 stops. And the most important thing I was reading actually before this race is that these cars, they can only barely make tyres towards the end of this race. The pace drop off, I've heard, is quite significant, which means that we could conceivably see some moments where people decide to take into the final stint, the third and final stint, take some tyres, and we get a chase towards the end.
Yeah, and the pit strategy it's even in an hour and a half long race when these guys are going to have to pit more than once or twice. I mean, it even comes down to how well you do on pit road, because we saw it previous 2 weeks ago at Interlagos, where fuel strategy, people were coming out of the pits and they thought they had it right, and then they would run out coming to the line, like how Eduardo Pecorini had to pit coming to the checkered flag and was overtaken by Alec Bergstrom, who stole the win there last week. So I mean, it was important at all the other tracks, but it's going to be especially important today. You have to be on it for every single pit stop.
Absolutely, and they'll have worked out this strategy, I am sure. Here are your qualifying results as we head into this hour and a half race. Eduardo Pecorini is on overall and GT3 pole position. Bobby Ross is in second position, 1.2 seconds down. Look at how dominant Eduardo Pecorini is looking heading into this race. Alec Bergstrom is in third position. Kerry Cantera in fourth. Eric Whitner is in fifth, with Frank Apper for SOG Slow Old Guy Racing in sixth position. Then Robbie Shin is in seventh.
And then it looks like we have Robert Schwenkler on pole for the GT4 class there in P8 overall. Paul Mikolajczyk not far behind him, though, down there in P9. Michael Dalling, Interlagos' winner 2 weeks ago, starts P3 once again there in 10th. James Keir is back there in 11th. Glenn McTavish in 12th, and then behind them, it's Grant Turner in 13th, Rob Neville in 14th, and Jerry DiPiero rounds out our 15-car field for tonight, back there in 15th. It looked like he didn't put down a qualifying lap, and, I mean, just under a minute away from the cars rolling off the grid. I mean, we saw how important pit stops were last week and how much you had to be on it in order to get good results here. So, I mean, you can't, if you're Eduardo Pecorini, just like at Interlagos, you can't really afford to make that many mistakes on pit road. Unfortunately, he did make one at Interlagos. So, I mean, how do you think Eduardo is going to respond to that? I mean, everybody has to respond to it and just be on it on pit road. But how do you think Eduardo is going to overcome his mistake last race at Interlagos?
Well, I think we've already seen half of that with a 1.2-second delta
Yeah.
to the car behind in qualifying. I think Eduardo is going to respond rather well, to be honest, and I think he's going to make a point of winning this race, and I don't think he'll accept from himself anything less than that. He is the favourite for this championship. By my reckoning, he's leading the championship, so I don't think Eduardo here is going to let himself make another mistake. This is the thing about these guys who are particularly fast in racing cars, in sim racing in particular. They tend to have one mistake in them, and they don't tend to make too many more mistakes. I mean, all you have to do is have a look at Eduardo Pecorini's iRating compared to the rest of these guys. He is experienced as they come in this championship. As we roll them to the grid, it appears Alex has got some kind of issue. And they're just heading around that final corner now. Ready to go for XTC. I'm going to hazard a guess that Alex isn't here. So here we go then. XTC. An hour and a half worth of racing. It's going to be a marathon here. It's Eduardo Pecorini on pole position. Is this race going to be lost into turn one? They wait for the lights. The man has the flag in his hand, and the green flag does fly, and Pecorini gets probably a worse start than Bobby Ross. Actually, he's going to have a challenge around the outside down into turn one. Pecorini hugs that inside line. Bobby Ross is going to try and have a swoop around the outside, doesn't quite get the grip. He's going to be overtaken by his fellow Mercedes into turn one. Here's the battle in GT4, and oh my word, they're snaking through there, but it's in the end Robert Schwenkler is going to get the worst of it, and it's going to be the number 01 car who, as they head down into the snaky section of this circuit, the technical section, it's going to be Robert Schwenkler in second position as we welcome Alex back into the box.
I having some just had a little bit of technical difficulties here, but I'm back. Sorry about that. But like you said, Paul Mikulajczyk able to take the lead away from Robert Schwenkler here, but Robert just got such a good exit here as they head through the final sweeping corner, and Eduardo Pecorini hasn't got that much of a lead over Alec Bergstrom there for the lead of the GT3 class as well. Robert Schwenkler, though, right on the back bumper of Paul Mikulajczyk as they head towards turn 11. Schwenkler is going to look to the inside as they head through the hairpin. Paul's going to try and stick it out up top there, but he's not going to be able to hold on to it. Schwenkler takes the lead of the GT4 Class 4 now, but remember, Paul Mikulajczyk, he's going to have a lot of draft down this back straightaway here as we go on board. It looks like you can see that gap closing. Schwenkler weaving a little bit to try and take away the draft, but Paul is still getting just enough to help him here. He's going to look to the inside. No, back to the outside, and on the brakes they come. Schwenkler looks like he's going to be clear for the lead as they round into turn number 12.
It was a good attacking driving there from Paul Mikulajczyk, as he just poked his nose there and just let Robert Schwenkler know that he's not completely content running in tandem for the duration of this first stint. I suspect he's going to try and pound the man who I believe is leading the championship in the GT4 category, and he knows that the best way to win this race is to get to the front early and pull a gap to make sure that there's no business with the pit stops later on. Eduardo Pecorini is trying to have that same sort of thought. However, there wasn't any slipstream in qualifying. There is slipstream now, and it's costing him just a little bit of that time that he had so much of in the qualifying session, hence why he's only 0.6 of a second up on the rest of the field and not as far ahead as he was in that qualifying session. Also remember, these guys have got to look after their tyres. If we know already that they're not going to easily make it to the end, then in an hour and a half race, you have got to look after your tyres early on. You can't push straight away.
Most definitely, especially through this twisty section that they're heading into right now. You're going to come through turn 2, then it's just a bunch of left and right switchbacks all the way up until turn 10. Great camera angle you can see of them all here, and just what these guys have to do, and that's really a part of the tire management. Those switchbacks last from turn 2 all the way to turn 9 here, and I mean, it's just absolutely insane what you have to just manhandle the car through here. As we look at Grant Turner currently trying to hang on to the back bumper of Michael Dalling, but he is falling back just a tad as they head towards turn number 11 for the second time this race. Paul, I don't think he'll be close enough for a move with the draft this time, but who might be close enough for a move is Jerry DiPiero on Glenn McTavish here, or even James Keir on Grant Turner up there as well that we were just looking at as they head down this straightaway. The draft could very well affect these small battles here in the midfield as we take a look at James Keir, who is drawing right up to the back bumper of Grant Turner. He's going to try and look to the inside of that Porsche as they head towards turn number 12 here. Onto the brakes they come, and it looks like he's going to fall back in line, and Grant Turner is going to maintain that spot for now.
Grant Turner does hold on to the spot only by a little bit, and this is what we're talking about. It's about sort of measuring how you attack in this race. Bobby Ross is finding himself attacking Alec Bergstrom, who himself is just losing a little bit of touch with Edoardo Pecorini, who sets another fastest lap of the race on as they head into lap 3. And you can see a second down Bergstrom on that previous lap. And look at the wider line that he's trying to take into that turn 1, Bobby Ross. As we see Robbie's shin, something must have happened to him, because I don't think he's slow enough to be 15 seconds down on Eric Whitner.
Could have been that. Not sure what could have quite happened to him here. I mean, he must have just gone off track, maybe slid a little bit. Car went around on him. We didn't see it as an off track, so I mean, looks like Robbie Shin just fell back a crap ton there. But Edoardo Pecorini still continues to pull away as he has opened up a 2.2 second gap to Alec Bergstrom, who only has a 0.7 of a second gap over Bobby Ross here. So it's a bit, that's pretty much the only battle in GT3 at the current moment. But currently the battle heavy field is in GT4 as Michael Dalling is going to get close to Paul Mikolajczyk there through turn, I want to say that was turn number 6, but honestly there's so many corners there I can't really count them all. Here's Michael Dalling right on the back bumper of Paul Mikolajczyk through turn number 10. They're going to head through turn number 11 once again, and that's where Michael Dalling is really going to be able to try and turn up the heat here, is through this hairpin and down this long straightaway, which in these GT4 cars just feels like it goes on forever. So they're going to head down this back straightaway here. You can see Schwenkler up in the distance, Mikolajczyk not able to catch him, but Michael Dalling could get a shot at it if he can get a good enough run to get around Paul Mikolajczyk here. He's got the draft under the COTA sign, and towards the rumble strips, and onto the brakes they go, and it looks like he's not going to be able to get it for now. Paul Mikolajczyk still going to hold on to second place.
How much he's fighting the wheel, actually, Dalling, as he heads through some of these corners. It's something you see on iRacing that you don't particularly see in other games, just how the force feedback's actually affecting them. It looks like it's a handful to drive, that Porsche, at the moment, and I'm just fearing for Mikolajczyk at the moment that perhaps his chance to attack Schwenkler has gone, particularly in the first stint, and maybe, just maybe, he'll be hoping to pick up a little bit of pace later on. That being said, he's got a right handful on his hands in the form of Michael Dalling, as we actually have got a crash, and this might be an explanation as to what happened to Robbie Shin.
What could have happened here is it looks like it's not initiating the replay. Oh, there he is. It looks like spun around Schwenkler. All 3 GT4 cars almost hit him there. So it looks like, judging off the tire marks, looks like he might have clipped the curb of a corner a little bit and just sent himself around. Here he comes into turn 19. And it looks like he gets onto the brakes, turns into the corner, and it looks like the car's just having none of it, even at that slow of a speed. And he spins to a stop. All the GT4 cars barely able to get around him. There's it kind of took away their line for that corner. And somebody bombed it into that corner. I'm not sure who that was back there in that McLaren with the Porsche behind him. I think that could have been maybe Grant Turner. As here's Jerry DiPiero behind those 2 battling cars. Actually, that was James Keir up there, and somebody else not sure who was in the Porsche, but Jerry DiPiero into turn number 12. Ooh, overshoots it a little bit. It looks like into the sand trap, but he's able to pull it back out on track. No harm, no foul done to that BMW, and he can continue on just fine.
Well, when you've got an hour and a half, you don't want to be throwing it away this early. And still plenty of time to make up ground. Michael Dalling has no interest in waiting around and using his plenty of time. He looks very racy, doesn't he, on Mikolajczyk?
It Looks like we have Robbie Shin back here. Think Adams trying to get us another view. There's James Keir going around. I believe that's Grant Turner in front of him. Gets the move done into turn number 12. And he's going to maintain that spot here through the next lap. As the battle for second is really heating up between these guys. But actually, Grant Turner has turned the afterburners on and gotten back around James Keir. And this is exactly what we were talking about, the draft battles going on down that back straightaway. If you can hang on to the guy in front of you during the first sector, that second sector, which is pretty much from turn 11 all the way to the end of that straightaway, that's where you can make moves on people using that draft here. And that's exactly what James Keir and Grant Turner are doing on each other. And Michael Dalling might have to do the same thing if he wants to get around Paul Mikolajczyk, which, by the way, Paul Mikolajczyk is starting to reel in Robert Schwenkler.
Only ever so slightly, though, and Schwenkler might just have had a little bit of an inconsistent lap or something, or maybe he's just managing his pace. You can see there he is only a couple hundredths of a second down, a couple thousandth of a second actually down on Mikolajczyk, so not panic stations just yet for Robert Schwenkler. I imagine he would have been preferring, as Eric Whitner has got past Frank Appert in the meantime, as I'm sure he'd be preferring to be off into the sunset by now. But as you can see, the lap differences, they seem to be fairly equal on pace, which I suppose is expected in two cars with two very good drivers that are on the fixed setup. The concerning thing for Robert Schwenkler, however, is the fact that Mikolajczyk has got Dalling on his back, so it will be costing him time at some point, and Schwenkler doesn't seem to be gaining the time.
Yeah, but Paul Mikolajczyk isn't closing that gap so much through Sector 1 as much as he probably would have liked here. He's going to enter they're going to enter actually at Sector 3 there, into turn 11. And Paul Mikolajczyk still losing a little bit of time there, just 100th, but that can add up over time. Down this back straightaway they come once again here as we take a look at Frank Appa, who has lost his spot to Eric Whitner in front of him here as he heads towards turn number 19. So we have to see if he can get back around Eric Whitner, and here's the pass. Great move by Whitner into turn number 12 there. Or actually, no, that was Appa trying to get around Whitner. And then Whitner, who actually made the corner, Appa missed it a little bit, and then Eric Whitner was able to just shoot it back towards the inside, get that spot back from him, and Frank Appa is just still going to have to maintain 6th for now, as the battle in the GT4 class is really heating up here between James Keir and Grant Turner, as there's, I never thought I'd be saying this, but lap traffic for a GT3 car for these guys in front of them, as here is them going side by side through turn number 12 and into 13 here, and it looks like James Keir is still going to end up with the better of that, but he still has to look out because Grant Turner is still right on his back bumper, and he's going to try something through turn 18.
Really a great little battle forming between these two at the moment. And just about Grant Turner staying behind at the moment. You can see already Robbie Shin trying to get back through that GT4 field. He was unfortunately sent to the back of at the start of this race. Here's Dalling once again on Mikolajczyk, and actually he's got a little bit of run here. It was a switchback move. I'm not sure a switchback move is much of a mistake for Mikolajczyk, but in the end he can't quite get the drive out of the corner in that Porsche. The McLaren perhaps just a little bit leaner, and now Dalling really trying to turn it up ever so slightly. I'm not too sure he wants to be tandem flying at the moment, and I think he would prefer this track position right now, and perhaps he's thinking, actually, I'm clearly faster. Look at Schwenkler. He's 2 seconds down the road. Just let's go together. Let's have a chance to try and get him together. At the moment, he's not being played with here by Mikolajczyk. He's not playing ball. And I think he's going to have to find a special way round here. That GT3 traffic that's just a little bit behind them in the form of Robbie Shin might actually be playing to their advantage here in terms of Dalling. It's if he can just play it correctly or get the right look, then Robbie Shin can hold up Mikolajczyk just that little bit, enough for him to send one down the inside, Dalling, which I think is what he needs to do at the moment. Look at the Ferrari just in the background there, about 5 seconds down the road, I'd say.
I think Dalling needs to find a way around Mikolajczyk soon if he wants a shot at Robert Schwenkler, because these two are very clearly losing time to the GT4 leader in front of them. So Dalling's going to have to do something. He knows he has the pace to get around Mikolajczyk and maybe even start to make an advance toward Schwenkler up there, who's heading through 18 at the moment. But if he wants to do that, he has to get around this number 01 cars, feeding him some dirty air for breakfast here as they head through turn number 18 on lap 7 of this race. Now to 19, and just, I think this is Dalling's strong suit, is this final couple of corners here. He gets a great run through these few corners, and he can get right up to the back bumper of Mikolajczyk, then Mikolajczyk pulls away through the rest of the track here as they round the front straightaway. And Dalling, he's going to have the draft, that gap closing, and it's going to really help him as these guys head up the hill into turn number 1 again. And it looks like he's got the gap closing into turn 1, but not able to do anything with it. He's still going to have to settle for third for now.
And he's not wanting to settle, that's for certain. I don't think settling is a thing he's capable of at the moment. Still 0.3 of a second. And an equal battle is actually going on between James Keir and Turner. That gap is below 1/10 of a second. They really are having a right old battle down in 4th and 5th. But at the moment, these two just still snaking through here as we see the Keir and Turner battle. I think Turner actually has got past Keir at some point in this race. They'll not be encouraged by Glenn McTavish trying to spoil the party, as I think they more than happily both settle for their respective positions than be overtaken by McTavish just behind them, so they'll be wanting to avoid getting into a scrap with the Aston Martin at any stage possible. We should be coming up on the pit stops as well very soon, Alex. About 4 minutes time before we expect to see the first one. That's a big dive from Keir, and he just can't quite get the braking out of that one, and I think it would have been rather suicidal actually to go for that. But we should, as I was saying, start to see the first pit stops very soon.
Yeah, and that's really where this race is going to be made. How do I say that in that context? Well, that's where this race is going to really be made for some of these guys. As there goes Dalling through Paul Mikolajczyk there into turn number 13. Mikolajczyk still trying to fight back a little bit around the outside into turn 17 here. Dalling is going to maintain this spot. Now he has to set his sights forward, but like you were saying about the pit stops, that's where this race is really going to be made for some of these drivers. They're going to have to try and perform as best as they can on pit road. If you're Michael Dalling here, or Paul Mikolajczyk, or Alec Bergstrom there in second for GT3, the pit stops is where you're going to have to be looking here throughout this entire race to try and make some moves to catch up to the leader, as both leaders in both classes are starting to check out.
Absolutely, and this isn't being helped by the battle between these two. You can see Mikolajczyk putting on pressure absolutely perfectly. He's just been passed, and every opportunity he gets, he's having a look down the inside, just reminding the Porsche that he is there. They always say in racing, do not look behind you. Whatever you do, don't look behind you. And I think the Porsche can't quite help it at the moment, as he's sort of being forced to look behind him. I mean, the car is bright blue, for crying out loud. It's not the least imposing of presences. Here's Bergstrom trying to attack Bobby Ross just ahead of him. And these two have actually had a battle. Here was that move as the number 33 goes sailing down the inside, able to get through on the 66. And they've just been back and forth all the way through this race. Nip and tuck, and they're continuing here. 0.2 of a second. Is he going to have a little bit of a look down into turn 1? And I don't think he's quite able to there. Alec Bergstrom, Bobby Ross stays ahead in the Mercedes. It's the battle of the two Mercedes. And in a fixed setup series as well, this really is driver skill. Neither of them are going to be particularly faster on a straight or something like that. So they've just got to be better driving-wise in different parts of the track.
Now, this is kind of pointless and doesn't really relate to this, but the front bumpers of the Mercedes, I have to point this out. I had to at one point. The front bumpers of these Mercedes, they're really reminding me of two things. Fish and insects. I don't know why. It's kind of like what a Nissan Altima does to me, but that's what it makes me think of. Fish and insects. I don't know why. It's just what the front bumper of these cars looks like, and that's really what these guys, well, not really what they're thinking. I don't know what I'm talking about, but these guys, both Mercedes, are going to have to try and battle against each other while a BMW is running away from them 8 seconds off in the distance. So these two Mercedes are going to be going at it pretty much the entire race. I believe there's a Ferrari and Kerry Cantera behind them. I'm actually quite honestly not sure what car he is. There he is back there. That looks like another Mercedes, so never mind. But so these three Mercedes, like we were mentioning a bit earlier, the pit stops is where these guys are going to have to look. They're going to have to look towards these pit stops and just put the battle aside and just try and figure out what can they do to make themselves better off towards the end of the race to try and make up ground on Edoardo Pecorini, who is already starting to catch up to GT4 traffic there in Robert Neville.
And when I said we were going to have to fill time at some point in this broadcast, Alex, it's not quite what I had envisioned. But I guess you could say
I had to think of something.
I guess you could say that they're going to try and become annoying insects in the year of Edoardo Pecorini, but at the moment he's 7 seconds down the road, and they're not doing it at the moment. Bergstrom's the annoying insect in Bobby Ross's here. Can't quite shake him, hasn't been able to shake him all race. First pit stop, Kerry Cantera into the pit lane, a little bit early actually. We were expecting 19 minutes and it's bang on 19 minutes, and usually if you're coming in at the very first opportunity in a pit window, that's not a particularly good sign on your fuel mileage.
Could be an undercut, though, on the part of that 333 car, as that Mercedes driving through everyone's stall before he lands at his own here. And now we have to see what he does for his fuel here, as Eric Whitner and Frank Zappa also into the pit lane. So these guys looks like going to have to maybe pit at 20-minute intervals, which isn't going to lead them to the end of this race. Wouldn't say it's really the most efficient pit strategy for these guys, as that would lead to them making maybe 4 pit stops, I think. I could be wrong.
It would be 4 with a half tank at the end.
Yeah, 4 pit stops, but then you would have a 10-minute stint to the end instead of a 20-minute stint. So these guys, they might be thinking something where if they pit early, put a nice amount of fuel in the car, they could try and maintain that to try and have to pit later. And these two have really just been annoying to each other the whole race. Bobby Ross and Alec Bergstrom here, who for a while Bergstrom couldn't shake Bobby Ross, and now Bobby Ross can't seem to shake Alec Bergstrom here. Now we take a look at Robbie Shin, who has gotten around the other 2 GT4 cars that were battling, and quite frankly, they're right on top of each other at the moment as they head through turn number 18. I actually think Mikulajczyk could be going for a move here. Yes, he is in turn number 19. Mikulajczyk takes second back as Schwenkler dives into the pit lane, and Michael Dalling immediately goes for the switchback as they head into the final corner to finish off lap number 10 here. Michael Dalling is going to take back that spot, and now they're going to get around Robert Schwenkler off of pit stops. And now you have to wonder, when are these guys going to head into the pits? As speaking of heading into the pits, Edoardo Pecorini has done just that.
Still going to be interested to see, as we see Bobby Ross and Bergstrom into the pits as well, almost careering into each other at that pace. But 21 minutes then seems to be the time that they're doing on the pit stops, and this will be interesting then, whether they do end up having to take tyres at some point in this race. I suggest that Bobby Ross and Alec Bergstrom might be certainly looking at a potential tyre change towards the end of this race, purely because that might be the only way they chase after Edoardo Pecorini.
Well, quite frankly, as Pecorini already heads out of the pits here, Bobby Ross and Alec Bergstrom, we have to keep an eye on their pit strategy, but 21-minute intervals of pitting here as we see Frank Zappa. He's heading into turn number 12 at this current moment. Onto the brakes he comes and into the corner, and I think the car just disagreed with that and maybe overcooked it a little, had to release the brakes to get the front tires to stop spinning, but I don't think he locked up there. As now we have to see when the top 2 for GT4s come into the pits and where Schwenkler ends up in relation to them, as it looks like Bobby Ross and Alec Bergstrom didn't gain any time on Edoardo Pecorini through that pit cycle, but there still is quite a few left to go. So, I mean, there's still a lot of chances for them to make up time through that. And, I mean, speaking of tires, I do think that when it comes to pitting for tires, these guys, we're in Austin, Texas, obviously, so it's obviously going to be very hot around here, but I do believe that we are towards later in the day, so it's not going to be as hot from the sun here. There's the info screen. Looks like track temp is about 83 degrees Fahrenheit, and the air temp is about 77 degrees Fahrenheit with 57% humidity. So, I mean, that's not really a hot track compared to a lot of things I've seen, but it could definitely cook the tires of these cars, especially through that twisty first section.
Well, I can tell you if it's 28 degrees Celsius, then I'm getting the cold flannels out. So it's not a cool track temperature, let's put it that way. But I always, as we see actually racing to the pits, that was almost very clever from Turner. Grant Turner trying to make a cheeky overtake into the pits. And actually, if he gets a marginally better pit stop here, we might be able to make the move on his rival there in the pits. I'm always hesitant to talk about the effect that track temperature has on tyres, purely because I've done a lot of sim racing over the last few years, and I can tell you I've never really had track temperature effect for the tyre wear. I think it's more to do with the extremes. I don't think a track temperature of 28 degrees, to be honest with you, 28 degrees Celsius is... Oh, he's got him. There we go. That's exactly what I was talking about. He might have put perhaps a litre less fuel into the car or something, but the quick thinking of Grant Turner has managed to get him track position, and this is crucial. He's going to be attacked into turn 1, but he's going to hold the position. Great thinking from Grant Turner, and that had a lot to do with the couple of tenths of a second that he gained going into the pit stop, as we see Eduardo Pecorini already trying to lap poor old Robbie Shin, and he's going to get out of the way. But yes, back to my point, Alex. I'm always hesitant to say track temperature has much of an effect on tyre wear. I'm not too sure it does, you know.
Speaking of something else, I think Robert Schwenkler might have passed away of natural causes back there, because I don't know if it's just me, but on my timing tower, it says that he is out of the race back there in 8th place, and I don't see him anywhere on track, and we swapped to him, we don't see him anywhere on track, and it looks like we're getting reports from Adam in our production truck that Robert Schwenkler's power just didn't agree with him on this one tonight, and it looks like his power has gone out, so that's going to end his night, and that's going to switch the battle to Michael Dalling and Paul Mikolajczyk, who, by the way, Michael Dalling has opened up a 3-second gap off pit stops alone.
This is quite unbelievable to see the bad luck that Robert Schwenkler has just had, and wow, hopefully he gets his power back and he can at least get to the end of the race by rejoining. I don't know if that's particularly, but I think it is possible in iRacing, surely. But anyway, that's beside the point. All of a sudden now, Darling is going to have the lead of the race, as you said, Alex, and that's made the move on Mikolajczyk a lot more interesting. And Mikolajczyk all of a sudden is thinking, why did I let this guy go at 2 seconds down the road?
Hey guys, Adam here in the production booth. Quick word on Rob. He's been having issues with his power for about the past month and a half. So living down in Texas, I guess, it is getting pretty hot there right now. And it sounds like they're doing some rolling blackouts. It's just unfortunate that the rolling blackout decided to happen on a Monday night during a league race.
Does love interrupting us, doesn't he, Alex? And I'm just messing with him.
Wow.
Interesting information. And they've had some, not to get political on stream, obviously. I know they've had some issues over the last couple of years with their power, haven't they, Texas? And, well, unfortunately, it's affected Rob on this occasion.
And that's, even as a sim racer myself, Tom, I think you can relate to this as well. Even if your power has or hasn't gone out mid-race, that's just gut-wrenching to see. It's just a driver who was so dominant early on in this race, and boop, nope, can't race anymore. But speaking of racing, Alec Bergstrom has made the move to get back around Bobby Ross here. And really, these two have just been in each other's ear the entire race so far, as Bobby Ross is going to get dragged down the back straightaway and might be able to try something into turn 11 or turn 12 if he's feeling a little bit excited here into turn 12. Looks like not today. He's going to fall back in line, and that's going to confirm this position change, as I don't know if Bobby Ross can really make a move anywhere else unless a mistake comes from Alec Bergstrom here, but that just really shakes up the entire race, and that just sucks.
Not for Michael Darling, it doesn't. Or Mikolajczyk, for that matter. I'm sure they're quite content with what's going on. In fact, for the rest of the field as well, who all of a sudden have got a chance of a podium, such as James Keir-Sir, who's just got past Grant Turner, and they're still having a little bit of a battle here. Alex, Grant Turner down the inside, tries to poke his nose in there, but James Keir-Sir is able to just about avoid it. Says, no, thank you. I'm going to keep this position, this podium position now. And, well, they'll be pretty chuffed about that. One man's gain is another man's... I don't know. I think I've messed up the phrase there, to be honest with you.
Well, I've done that before already tonight. It's perfectly fine.
I'm going to have to
one man's fault is another man's gain, maybe? Could that be it?
I don't know.
Maybe?
One
I
man's
think,
lost, another
I
man's
think,
getting in the
I
ear.
think,
There we go.
yeah.
I've got it in the end.
You know what? Here we
It's
got.
3
We
a.m.
got. Yeah, Tom, I bet you're having fun down there. As these two are having a lot of fun down here, going side by side down the front straightaway. They're going to come up the hill with Grant Turner currently getting the better of it in terms of a run. Onto the brakes they come and up the 133-foot hill. Grant Turner is going to end up with the better of that spot. And really, these two, you remember that one scene from Christmas Vacation, right? Where I forgot the actor's name. It's just Lampoon, the main guy. Oh yeah, Clark Griswold. That's the one. Where he's in the office and all the office guys are going by him and he's just cursing them out under his breath. I think that's what these guys are going like. They're trying to be nice to each other, but at the same time, they're like, I wish you were dead right now. As they just would like to hold on to the spot for once for a battle of a podium that's probably going to go on for another hour to the end of this race here. Which honestly is pretty entertaining for these two that are just still going at it. And it looks like James Keir's thinking about something into turn 11, decides to wait till the back straightaway here. It looks like he's going to get a better run through the center of the corner. And now James Keir can get a little bit of a draft run down here, but I don't think he's close enough to make the move.
No, even if that McLaren has perhaps got a little bit of better straight line speed. I haven't seen the statistics, I'm not too sure. But the Porsche holding on at the moment. I have to say, I have never seen that film as he goes defensive. Does Grant Turner? Is he going to have one sent around the outside? It looks like he's thinking about it, James Keir. And I think actually, perhaps the defence was a little bit pointless there from Grant Turner. At 0.6 of a second, the gap. I can tell you something must have happened to Michael Darling because Mikolajczyk has gone from 2 seconds down to 0.4 of a second down.
Yeah, and that means the battle for the lead is going to go through the entire race, as well as the battle for a podium. So GT4 is really where it's at the current moment.
Oh, dear.
And it looks like Darling just overshot it a little bit, and that allowed Mikolajczyk to make up a ton of time on him into turn 12.
And he'll be hounding now, and we've seen how well he's applying pressure so far throughout this race, and I'm sure he'll be continuing to apply as much pressure as he physically can. Here is the pressure being applied, and here is the pressure that's going to force him into a move around the outside. It is not the easiest place to make a move around the outside. It's one of the tightest corners in racing. He's going to go for the switchback this time though. Can the McLaren that we're riding on board with get the extra drive? He can't quite. He's going to have to stay behind for the moment, stay in the slipstream. There's not a lot of dirty air in these GT4 cars, so that's not a real concern, and just stay on the back of him. They're quite lucky he's got brake lights as the Porsche, so whenever he's braking, well, Darling can just brake that ever so slight little bit later. He's still in the rear. Mikolajczyk, I apologise. He's still in the rear and actually goes a little bit deep, so he's perhaps struggling a little bit to stay behind.
Well, you know what, Tom. In your defense, it is 3 a.m. for you, so I'm not gonna hound you too much for for messing that up there. Wait, what did you say there?
What did I call him?
Yeah. So Darling is leading. So
yes,
Darling is leading. He called Mikolajczyk that. So, but anyways, these two are just still going at it. We saw it before the pit stops and before Robert Schwenkler's power said no. And they're still battling even after that first pit stop and after Darling made up that time in the pits. So really, Mikolajczyk has the benefit of the doubt here, especially in that next pit stop. And whoa, Mikolajczyk really sent it in there. That could have been bad, as we see GT3 car back there. I almost called it a GT4 car, but that's the Mercedes of Frank Appa there in P6 for the GT3. And he's catching up to these guys. And really, James Keir, I want to say he's catching up to Grant Turner, but those two might as well just be the same exact car. I mean, they're just been hanging on to the back of each other the entire race. Same thing with the leaders in GT4 currently, and same with second and third in GT3, who it looks like Bobby Ross already made the move back around Bergstrom, but Bergstrom still deciding that, I'm just going to sit right here and just annoy you for an hour. So looks like they're just having a bit of fun up here. And here's the move Bobby Ross made going into turn number 11. Late on the brakes, and he's able to get the move done. Actually, it looks like Bobby Ross held his own right on the inside of that corner, and Bergstrom was trying to get a tighter line, but Bobby was right there, and he had to swerve out of it, which cost him a little bit of time as they headed down the back straightaway.
Well, there was a little bit of contact as well, I believe, there. So, not the most encouraging thing. Here's Frank Gapper getting through some GT4 traffic, and Edoardo Pecorini 14 seconds down the road on anyone else. 15 seconds now. It's absolutely unbelievable. Look at the man on his own, wondering where everyone got to in the number 47. And I appreciate when Martin Brundle said that in the Formula 1 earlier this year. Charles Leclerc went to break down. But iRatings on the screen, and this essentially shows what's going on here. As Edoardo Pecorini, 5.2 thousand. He has got so much more iRating than anyone else in the field, and it's showing that is a pretty scientific measure. At the moment, Edoardo Pecorini having the most experience in the field. I'm always hesitant to say iRacing shows how much pace you have, but it certainly shows a lot of experience, and Pecorini using all of that experience to set a fastest lap of the race at 2:04.1, puts him 15.5 seconds now ahead of the rest of the field. He could be lapping his own guys by the end of this one.
And I think he could just probably take like maybe not like a full nap up there. Maybe just get his eyes half closed, just relax and just wheel this BMW around this circuit for another hour and a half until his next pit stop, which actually didn't even think about this, but the next one is going to be coming up relatively soon here as we are on minute 34 of this race. And judging off when these guys pit the first time, they're going to have to come in at around minute 41, maybe 40, 42, around that mark. So that's only around 5-6 minutes away for these guys. So the second green flag pit stop is about to get underway.
I'm just going to assume that your parents never taught you of the story of the tortoise and the hare, Alex.
You know what? They probably they did, because I definitely know that story, but I'm probably not smart enough to remember it.
Well, you've just essentially described it. The tortoise was taking it slow and steady, and then the hare was miles in front, let's say to the tune of 15 seconds in Texas. And then he took a nap, a tea break, and he lost the race. And
I think the nap in this situation would be Edoardo Pecorini taking like a full tank of fuel, or maybe 4 tires instead of 2, something like that, maybe. I don't know.
I could see him taking 4 tires here in the final stint purely to cover off anything going. If he's got the pace to purely cover off anything going on with the guys behind him, because if they take tyres into the last stint and all of a sudden they're a second a lap faster, then he might be in a little bit of strife. Edoardo Pecorini, not enough strife to really harm him, as he would still win the race presumably if it's 15 seconds now, assuming the last stint is 30 seconds up the road, let's say a conservative estimate. Then the tyres will probably cost another 10 seconds. So they're not going to be chasing in the space of 10 laps, probably 40 seconds. However, I think it wouldn't surprise me if he took tyres just to sort of cover off that possibility, particularly if we know they're going to wear off towards the end. Question is, how dramatically do they wear off, and do they wear off into a sort of puncture range?
Well, I haven't really seen many punctures happen on iRacing. It's more like when a tire goes flat, it just kind of like just decides to clip into the ground there and just stay there until you come into the pits to fix it. So I don't really think that these guys have a puncture. I mean, it could definitely go off track and could sideline the car if you're not careful with it. But with a puncture, with that coming into range for one of these guys, I mean, that just shows how careful they have to be when deciding what they do with their strategy. And I mean, when they eventually have to take tires to get themselves to the end of this race, I mean, when do you think they will? Because honestly, I was thinking that just off me not knowing that much about road racing, because I'm not very smart, I would think the probably good interval to take tires would be pit around minute 45, currently at the second pit stop for them, which means they would only have a pit stop or 2 to go, and they could just go to the end on a fresh set of tires. But I mean, what's your opinion on that? Because I'm not very smart when it comes to road.
So, I disagree, because I am reading that the tyre strategy will differ across the classes. You can do the full race with one set, but it will definitely cost pace towards the end. So how I am reading that's in the broadcast notes, so kindly provided to us by Robert Schwenkler, the league owner. And I read that as it's going to be quite difficult to get the tyres to the end. So I do not think that there is any benefit in taking tyres 45 minutes in, because if you're going to take tyres, you're doing it as a sort of Hungary 2019. You're trying to do it as an impact thing. If you take them 45 minutes in, you're going to be on half-life, presumably towards the end of the race. And you don't want that. You want to have it at impact. So you want to be pitting, if you're going to be, say, a second faster, you want to be pitting about 20, not 20 laps to go, because that would be halfway through the race. That would be exactly what you're saying. But you want to be taking them into your final stint, I think is what I'm trying to say. To just perhaps get that little bit of an edge on the cars you're attacking. It all depends, though, and I don't have these numbers myself, how long it takes to have a set of tyres.
Yeah, but we're about to find out if anybody takes tires at this moment as Eric Whitner pulls into the pits for the second time here tonight. Looks like he's been the first to jump the gun in the pit lane on both pit cycles for now. So that's that number 17 Porsche is into the pit lane. We'll have to see if he gets lifted up on the jacks at all. And it looks like he's still stationary in his stall. He's already got the rev limiter all the way up for when he exits the pit, so I don't think he is taking tires. Car has not been lifted up on the jack stands, so I think it's a fuel-only stop, and he's out of the pits and good to go. Back out towards turn 1 as he climbs the hill once again, and currently, he's the only driver to make the hard left onto pit road, and we're about to see if any of the GT4 drivers decide to make that move, and it looks like the top two don't. Now we have to see what happens with third and fourth, who are still locked in a fierce battle, by the way. These two have not let go of each other.
I think at this stage, they're not really attacking each other. I think they're just wanting to stay there. And I think they know that it's just going to waste both of their time, essentially, having a battle towards the end of the race. Of course, it'll be fun, but I can tell you that can drag on towards the end. And I think really Grant Turner's just got to be smart, play the long game, sit behind for another 20 minutes or so, because he's just going to be using his tyres. As I said, and I sound like a broken record, if they are having trouble getting these tyres to the end properly, and I don't know how dramatic that is, all we've been told is that it costs pace. So if they're going to have trouble like that, I don't see the risk in battling and just using more of your tyres when you've got the pace to stay with the guy. Just have his slipstream. He's punching the hole in the air. He's using more of his fuel. Just sit behind him.
Yeah, well, judging off of what they've done throughout the rest of the race, I don't know if that's exactly what Grant Turner's thinking here as those guys head to round turn number 11. And Kerry Cantero, the next of the GT3 cars to head onto the pit lane, I don't think he will be taking tires either, as currently stationary in his pit stall. No, actually heading towards it right now. He makes the left into his stall, and now stationary, waiting for fuel to get in that car. It looks like he took a faster pair as well. I saw some damage on the right rear, just got immediately buffed out for that Mercedes. So it looks like not lifted up onto the jack stands either, so no tires for him either. And still, these guys hanging right onto each other is actually Frank Appa and Eric Whitner actually back into the pit lane. So Whitner might have gotten some damage or made a mistake when he was fueling his car that first time, or on his outlap, but that's odd. So I'm not sure why Whitner's gone back into the pit lane a second time here, as we have a replay of it. He's heading through turn 18, gets onto the curbs, brings it off. It looks like he's breaking into the final corner. Looks like nothing wrong with the car. He just brings it back into the pit. So, I mean, for all I know, that's got to be something that he's maybe screwed up with, or could have made contact with a lap car, or with a, not really a lap car, but Robbie Shin heading through turn number 1. Here comes Eric Whitner. No contact between these two, so it looks like Whitner might have messed up when he was deciding whether or not to take fuel or tires, and maybe might have underfueled the car and was coming in to top it off.
Yes, perhaps. And we see this battle raging on. Grant Turner looking a little bit more racy than I let on that he should be. And maybe he's just literally forgot to put something in the pit menu, which is something that's very easy to do. As we see James Keir trying to still fend off Grant Turner. He's doing it quite well. Robert Schwenkler suggesting that Whitner could have had a drive-through, which is an equally is a reasonable suggestion, though 34 incident points in this time is would be an achievement, though he has mentioned as well, Robert Schwenkler, that track limits are super tight. And it is a Tilke circuit, so of course the track limits are super tight. It's a drive-through penalty, I'm being told, is the correct case. So there we go, mystery has been solved.
Yeah, and it looks like the B Team Scooby Crew, the three of us up here in the booth, has solved another mystery here. And James Keir here with 16 X's is also pretty close to a penalty, as well as Alec Bergstrom up there, who might I remind you stayed out that lap. So now it looks like he's gonna lead this one, and now I'm gonna take a moment and try and guess what Bergstrom could try and do here, and what he might be trying to do here. He's trying to go for just maybe trying to get maybe a 1, 2, 3 pit stop race here. Actually, no, a 3 pit stop race here. Yeah, 3 stop race where he pits at around minute 22, then pits at around minute 45, then pits at around, let's say, maybe hour and minute 07, hour and minute 10, and then goes to the end of the race here. And if he does that, and if he does it right and gets the fuel mileage correct, he could cycle through to the lead when the pit stops are over.
And I also want to point out, as Bergstrom has got 17 incident points, that he's going to get a drive-through penalty. And I should mention that I read it completely wrong. 34 is a disqualification. So there we go. And, well, as we see him go into the pits, Alec Bergstrom, I had a point that I wanted to make, Alex, but it's completely evaded me. And we press on in this race.
You know what?
Eduardo Pecorino.
Here, I'll take over for a second, because I want to mention something. I don't really think that 17X's really is that much here, because of something that happened to me in a league race around a year or two ago. We took ARCA cars here, because the league owner runs ARCA cars, right? And we took them to Circuit of the Americas. It was a 43-lap race, I want to say. Could have been a little bit more, a little bit less. But there was one driver, and I won't ever forget this because it was funny. But at the end of this race, because we didn't have an incident limit, so at the end of the race, we were just able to go like off track whenever we wanted to get better entry and exit lines. He ended the race with 143 X's. And now, I don't know how this happened, but he ended a 43-lap race with 143 X's, and that's over 3 X's a lap. So, I mean, I don't know, that's pretty insane. But these guys, it looks like they're just struggling to keep it on the track for him.
Hey.
As Whitner, even after his drive-through, is already up to 22 X's.
Alex, this is Adam again here in the booth. I figured I'd chime in for just a second. I don't know if you watched the Watkins Glen race for NASCAR this weekend, but
that was funny.
That was
Adam, I most certainly did, because I'm a Kyle Larson fan, and my favorite driver won that race. I was freaking out.
So they did about the same.
The pits.
Yeah, they did about the same thing there.
They used every inch of that racetrack.
Yeah, they absolutely did. So I can see how some of the track limits, especially if you're more into the NASCAR side of things, trying to worry about. You're not so worried about track limits, as I know. Whitner is more an oval driver guy, so I think Whitner may have had an issue like that. But as we do see Paul taking tires, and it's all you guys, I'll let you have it back.
No, I don't know if he's taking tires. I think that's a hover car right there. Look. It looks like James Keir is doing it too. These guys, it's the DeLorean. These aren't McLarens or Ferraris. It's DeLorean. There you go. Back onto the wheels to get a good exit here. And it looks like Paul Mikolajczyk could beat a Ferrari in a drag race out of the pits there. As it looks like Robbie Shin falls back a little, and now Robbie is going to have to try not to total that McLaren, trying to get back around him in that faster Ferrari back there. Robbie Shin could be trying to take driving lessons back there. Maybe he's got a bit of popcorn back there watching that McLaren in front of him, but it looks like he has more speed in that GT3 car, so it looks like he is going to get around him quite soon here as they head through the twisty section of this racetrack. And might I say now that cold tires, here goes Robbie Shin to just get back around Paul Mikolajczyk. these new tires, they're going to be cold, right? And for these guys, cold tires, that's going to affect them quite a little bit here. And that's going to mean that they're going to have cold tires. And that's going to, you know what, I'm just repeating the same sentence over and over again. But when they take the new tires, they're going to be cold. Yeah, they're going to be cold for a lap or two. And that could really affect their lap times. And it could affect whether or not they catch up to other cars or make speed or lose speed off of pit road here. As really the main thing to look at the moment is where's Michael Dillon going to end up in relation to Paul Mikolajczyk when he comes into the pits. Is Paul Mikolajczyk currently heading down the back straightaway and Dillon about to round the second to last corner. So now we have to see if this Porsche makes the hard left onto pit road. And it looks like he's going to continue to stay out for another lap. So looks like Michael Dillon could have something up his sleeve here.
He's got to take tyres now, Michael Dillon. If he doesn't, then he's going to find himself very vulnerable indeed to Mikolajczyk, particularly if he is faster. When you're leading a race, you've just got to cover off what the guy behind you is doing, because that way there can be no strife. They haven't got threats from behind, so that's not going to be a concern for them, as he's disappeared out of existence for a moment, and I believe that was on my end. Never mind. And no, I wanted to point something out in this race, and that is that we've got such a huge battle for the lead, gap at the top of the field. As you can see, Eduardo Pecorini 20 seconds down, 20 seconds off, I should say, on Bobby Ross, who's in second position. Bobby Ross is on 12 incident points. He will probably be getting a drive-through penalty at some point in this race. Alec Bergstrom, we assume, has got a drive-through penalty already with 17 incident points. Eduardo Pecorini only on 4 incident points. That is incredible.
Well, you know what's also incredible is Glenn McTavish back there only on 3.
Oh, dear.
But, oh no, Michael Dillon,
he's out of fuel.
He ran out of fuel. He is out of gas. And that is going to mean that he has to tow back to the pits. There he goes. And another thing, I didn't even realize while I was being stupid thinking that a McLaren was floating in the pit lane. But, these guys, yeah, I know they were changing tires, but I was being stupid saying that they were floating. But we are past the halfway point on minute 50 of this race. And really, Paul Mikolajczyk's luck has turned for the better here, as now he's not going to have that much of a battle, and he's going to be able to cruise on out of here for P1, as there's still more battles throughout the field, as James Keir still riding the back bumper of Grant Turner as they head through the hairpin. It looks like Keir's line is going to get a little messed up there from lap traffic. That's from Kerry Cantera there in the 333 Mercedes. But even then, there's a battle behind them for 4th, as Robert Neville leads Glenn McTavish and Jerry DiPiero for that spot, as 3 different manufacturers all battling for the same spot here. A BMW, a Porsche, and an Aston Martin going at it, as it looks like Glenn McTavish, he tried to make a move on Robert Neville, taking advantage of the lap traffic, but it looks like Neville got a better drive down the straightaway. But McTavish has the draft down here, going towards turn 12. And it looks like he's going to try and think about a move, but onto the brakes they come. Not going to be able to get it done. Actually, no, yes, he will. He got there under braking, and and Glenn McTavish completes the move to put himself up into 4th. Now we have to see what Jerry DiPiero does, and it looks like he's going to try and get around the outside of Robert Neville through turn 13 and into 14. Still side by side are those two as they head towards turn 15. Still looking at, there's Jerry DiPiero, who has cleared Robert Neville. And now Jerry DiPiero has to see if he can keep up with Glenn McTavish's Grant Turner, or that might have been James Keir, I believe, just entered the pit lane. There was the move. It looks like Robert Neville might have relented that position a little bit. And if we take a look at the X's, yeah, that's a drive-through penalty that James Keir's had to serve. So Grant Turner and James Keir were just being frenemies the entire race. But now it looks like James Keir, unless something miraculous happens, is going to have to settle for 3rd.
Or unless he takes tyres, of course, and has a glory run towards the end of this race. And, well, I think it could be possible. I'm calling it now. It could be possible, and I'll tell you now, when I call something, it's either spectacularly wrong or true, if you, from a certain point of view, is we see James Keir 13 seconds down on Grant Turner. And considering they've had such equal pace, Alex, throughout this race, James Kearser is going to have to take some tyres at some point. What has he got to lose? He's got Glenn McTavish 11 seconds behind. I don't think tyres loses you 11 seconds, so I think, why not take the gamble? Oh, apparently he already did take tyres, so exactly.
Yeah, so...
I was exactly right, Alex. What did I say?
Hey, good job. Good prediction, Collation. Give you a round of applause. Not sure if you can hear that through my mic, but round of applause there. Good job, Tom, on that prediction, as Glenn McTavish now could think of trying to close that gap up to James Keir, as currently he still has a car to worry about, and that's Jerry DiPiero, but Jerry DiPiero doesn't have to worry about a car. No, he has to worry about the incident points that could come to take over his BMW and force it down the pit lane. If he gets another off track here, Robert Neville has to worry about the same thing, and that's another incident point for Jerry DiPiero. So it looks like the incident point sleep paralysis demon is affecting everybody here tonight.
I think everyone's.
There's Tom.
Yes, I am here. I am battling with some ever so slight game issues that are just causing the occasional lag.
Looks like the lag sleep paralysis demon is getting you.
Yes, iRacing netcode for you, and a combination of BT Internet is a dynamic duo, I'll tell you that. And Bobby Ross still holding off Alec Bergstrom at the moment. These two are basically inseparable, and it looks like they're inseparable in terms of incident points as well. 5 incident points between them, which, unless you're Eduardo Pecorini, isn't a great deal in this race. However, Bergstrom has got to tidy up a little bit in order to avoid a second drive-through penalty.
Well, I would like to take a hint and look at Bobby Ross's incident points there. He's not too far away from getting his first. Oh, no, that's his... Oh, actually, no, it looks like the incident point sleep paralysis demon is a little bit nice to him there. Only gave him 1, but that could have been disastrous. And I mean, netcode could have had a part in that, as Bobby Ross, or it could have been warm tires, but that's uncharacteristically, just uncharacteristic spin for the rear end of that Mercedes to spin around like that. But we've seen it earlier in this race, so it could have just been, he just overcooked it a little bit there. I'm not sure. No, there wasn't contact. It looks like Bobby Ross hit the curb a little bit there, and that just upset the rear end of that race car and sent it right around. So very unfortunate for Bobby Ross here. And if he's not careful, he could have himself a one-way ticket to the pit lane there with 16 X's at the moment.
And I hate to have a moan on broadcast, but I do hate how iRacing punishes you for having a spin. For example, getting an incident point there for having a spin, because the spin itself should be the punishment. You shouldn't get a drive-through penalty for having a spin. It's absolutely nonsensical to me. But anyway.
Well, another thing is, I don't think I should get a 4X for somebody going backwards in an official race. But what do I know? So, don't mean to out you, iRacing, but when I get a 4X for somebody going backwards, I don't think that's very correct here. If that happens, I go to the moon, I become NASA's new astronaut, and I somehow fall back to Earth driving my stock car, and there might as well just be hell on earth waiting for me when I fall back down. I'm just sitting there, I look like I just had a heart attack, just eyes wide, shaking, and I don't know, but I think when that happens, I don't think I should get a 4X for that one, I'm not gonna lie, but... Currently, Bobby Ross actually just got his 17th incident point while we were on a tangent. So it looks like the incident point sleep paralysis demon has started to affect Bobby Ross as well. He's going to have a one-way ticket to the pit lane here, as Eric Whitner has the most of the field with 25. And if Adam is telling me correctly, I do think that Eric Whitner, he does have another incident point. He got one at 17X, and then every 8X after that. So Eric Whitner does have another drive-through penalty, and then the next thing after him is if he gets 33 incident points, that's another drive-through. One more after that, he's done for the night. So Eric Whitner, he really has to be careful for the rest of this race.
He really does only 9 incident points away, as you said, from actually being disqualified from this race, and he's got 33 minutes in order, 32 minutes really, to try and hold out. As I can see, Robert Schwenkler is typing in the Discord. I'm assuming that he's got his power back, actually. He hasn't got... Oh, he has got the mobile thing. He hasn't got his power back. Never mind. He can't come back into the race and do the last 10 laps. He mentioned that a transformer had actually blown down the street from him. And I can tell you, transformers are dangerous things, Alex. I've worked with them before, and they're very.
What are we talking about here? Like power transformers or like Optimus Prime?
Well, both, I suppose, if you want to look at it that way. But no, transformers are very horrendous things, and I was working in a shop because I have a family member who's an electrician, and we were working with these transformers, and it was a particularly poorly wired shop, and we've got an hour and a half. I can have a tangent, and it's a particularly badly wired shop, and he's on this ladder and he's trying to wire this transformer, and suddenly it became pretty obvious that the transformer, despite the circuit being off, was on, and I ended up having to catch him as he fell off the ladder, and well, it wasn't an entertaining experience, I have to tell you. So don't mess with transformers is the moral of the story.
It's like Optimus Prime wasn't very happy with you that day, and you know what? I'm going to go on another tangent about things that are hard to work on. Wheel bearings. You take off the tire, you take off the brake rotor, you get to the wheel bearing, you can't do crap with it. Actually, you know what? You probably can do crap with it, and I'm just dumb. But you know what? I don't like working on wheel bearings. I'm saying it. So we don't need tires where we're going. We saw cars floating in the pit lane. Why can't they drive around like that? It'd be funny. But looks like Bobby Ross, looks like that has costed him. His spin has costed him around 7 seconds, and he still has to serve his drive-through penalty, I do believe. And if Alec Bergstrom isn't careful, he's going to have to serve a second one there with 23 incident points there currently in second. So everybody just really getting affected a lot this race. As I don't know if we mentioned this already, but Jerry DiPiero has gotten his, so has James Keir, and Frank Appa is a bit close to it as well. The only people that aren't close to it are Glenn McTavish, Paul Mikolajczyk, and Eduardo Pecorini there. Especially Glenn McTavish there with an impressive only 4 incident points, and Eduardo Pecorini doing a great job with only 5.
As apparently, Michael Dolling is... Oh no, we know Michael Dolling is out of the race. I'm blaming my producer for that one. And he said, my bad. So you can all blame Adam for that. But anyway,
way to go, Adam.
Yes, and his fault. Always.
Hey, listen here, guys. First of all, it is only 7 o'clock, 7:19 where I'm at here.
No,
in
it's
Phoenix.
10.
But it is still getting late, and this race has now turned an hour. So I apologize. But yes, Michael Dolling did go out of the race because he ran out of gas. I apologize to all the viewers on the stream for that one.
Adam,
go out to the man that's commentating at 10 a.m. when it's 3:20 for me.
You know, Adam, what time did you wake up this morning?
Too early.
What time did you wake up?
Way too early.
Too early. All right, you know what? I'm prepared for this, and I'm still being stupid. You know what, guys? I woke up at 5 p.m. today. All right. I stayed up too late the night before. I woke up at 5 p.m. today, so I'm ready. All right, I'm fired up. We have a battle on track for a Porsche and a McLaren going at it. The Porsche's stuck there. They almost die. Yeah, but we don't talk about that. It looked like Mikolajczyk got a little bit loose there through turn 9. Here through turn 10 they come, as Kerry Cantero's trying to get around him now, and he's going to get easily, as actually Jerry DiPiero is in the pits with heavy front end damage. That hood is gone, and he's actually out of this race. It looks like he has disconnected from the server. So Jerry DiPiero, our 4th retiree from tonight's event, with 22 X's, it looks like. He gets it nice through turn 12, gets another off track there, and it looks like he's bringing it into turn 13. Turns into, oh, that's just completely misjudged turning there. He still has it going, he's doing all right now. Oh, he drives through the grass, still keeps it going. He's got the advanced Formula 1 line, and it looks like he's overcooked it through turn 16 or 17
that's
there.
not misjudged turning. That is a suspension severely damaged, and he's actually there messed up the steering. He cannot steer that car. That is his issue, I'm afraid to say. There is no way that a driver as capable as him is going to turn like this without some significant damage.
Oh yeah,
He's
I
not.
can tell now.
He's not. He's not a bad driver like that. But on the note of getting up at 5 p.m., thanks to working for Slow Motion Broadcasting, I've managed to find myself on your guys' time zone at the moment. So 5 p.m. wake up.
Didn't you say it's 3 a.m. for you?
It is at the moment. And
wow, congrats to you
but,
for persevering, man. I mean, I stayed up till like maybe 6 a.m. yesterday, but
yes,
like,
well, you see, the issue is I've been sort of on the American time zone, well, flipping in between. I
oh,
sort of change time zones slowly throughout the week. One day I'll be up at 1 a.m., then I'll be up at 4 a.m. My sleep
yeah.
schedule will get back to normal. Then I've got a commentary again. So we'll all flip. And, well, it means that my circadian rhythm, or whatever it's called,
Well, you
is...
know, I don't want to blame my poor summer sleep schedule on myself, so I'm gonna blame it on my trip to Europe that I went to a little bit ago. So I'm gonna blame it on jet lag instead of myself not wanting to go to bed when I should. So it's jet lag. It's not my fault here. It's actually Bobby Ross comes in to take his, I assume, final pit stop
That'll
of
be
the
a
night
drive-through.
here. And
He's got 18.
oh yes, that's
It will
right.
be a drive-through for Bobby Ross. And
Actually,
oh,
he's
I'd say that he
turning.
just pulled into his
Yeah,
pit
he's
box.
turning.
So
Yeah, he's turning towards his stall. As I'm still curious as to how Bergstrom is still in front of Eduardo Pecorini, because he pitted that last time. I mean, Pecorini is still catching him, but he pitted that last time there, and is still out on track. I think he's only pitted once this race. If we can get the pit stops,
I'll just check for you. As
green.
Peccarini's made an
I'm
extra
not quite
stop.
sure.
He pit on lap 30, and Bergstrom pit on lap 21. So that's
Oh,
what's
okay.
happening there.
Yeah. So Bergstrom still hasn't served his penalty yet. And if he doesn't look out, he could get another one there and have to serve 2 before the end of this race. So it looks like Bergstrom just trying to stay out and delay the inevitable for as long as possible here. But that number 47 BMW is charging towards him in his rearview mirror.
He is, and I don't think it's. Oh, I'm hearing in my ear that Kerry Cantera said that he drove like that. Oh, Jerry DiPiero said I drove like that because I had enough, and well, each to their own, and not recommended. I personally recommend pulling into the pits and using the escape button rather than quite like that.
Or you can do the stadium truck track layout, which I think is a lot more fun. So, no, I don't blame him, honestly. Wheeling a GT4 car around really any circuit for an extended period of time gets pretty exhausting over a long course of time. So, I mean, I don't blame him that much for it. So, it's been fun, Jerry. You'll see, I think this Thursday for Spec 5 World Tour. So, hope to see you then, buddy. And thanks for coming out. Thanks for racing. We'll see you in a little bit. But currently, Pecorini is still trying to close that gap to Bergstrom. He's not closing it as quick as I would have thought.
Well, Bergstrom's got to pit again, so it's not too much of a concern. Now, you speak like a man, Alex, who's never had to do a 4-hour night stint in a Le Mans 24-hour
event. I can kind of relate to that. In the Daytona 24 I did this year with my friends. Hey, friends, I don't mean to out you at all, but they all fell asleep, right, in the middle of the night. So I ended up having to drive our LMP2 car from 4 a.m. till 8 a.m. I was tired as hell. I fell asleep as soon as I was done. I was upset. I was stuck there, just in my own thoughts. I was talking over the in-game voice chat a little bit, and people were like, oh, man, I feel bad for you, man. I'm sorry. Because I had to drive that car while all of my teammates were asleep for 4 hours, from 4 in the morning till 8 in the morning. Finally, when my friend woke up, I wanted to kill him when one of them woke up. So, that was entertaining. So I think I can kind of relate to that just a little bit, but it is an LMP2 car compared to a GT4 car, so...
Well, on R Factor 2 anyway, the LMP2 cars are much more difficult to drive than practically anything else in the game, so doing a night stint at Le Mans whilst trying to triple stint your tyres is not a fun experience. I wouldn't recommend it. I had to do it in July for this event that we had. And well, let's just say it was an enjoyable experience the first 2 stints. By the 5th stint, and that's not the bad thing. I flat spotted my tyres, so I had to come in early. I was supposed to do another stint, but thankfully my teammate took over, and I only had to do the 5 stints rather than the 6. But in that, I had to manage a red flag and a restart, which was very fun. But that's enough about that.
I thought that would have been pretty. I thought that would have been pretty fun. Bergstrom coming into the pits. I'm not sure if he's serving his penalty or if he's just making a scheduled pit stop here. I think he might just be serving his penalty. No, he's making the left turn towards the pit stalls here. So it looks like he's going to take fuel for, I assume, the final time tonight, which honestly, no, he still has to serve his penalties here, but if he plays this right, he could end up in front of Eduardo Pecorini, maybe. I'm not quite sure. But if he does this right, it could maybe happen if he plays this all correctly, because Pecorini is going to have to come into the pits yet again before the end of this race. So if Bergstrom gets a nice couple of laps going and just stays really consistent, really fast, he could try and make a run at Pecorini towards the end of this race here. So we take a look at Bobby Ross behind a little bit, heading towards the last corner. I think he's completed his final pit stop, but still has to look out for getting another drive-through penalty off of incidents here. He's currently sitting at 18 with only 1 at the moment, so he still might have to serve it. I'm not sure if he's served his first one, but he's going to have to eventually, and he's going to have to look out for getting a second one.
As I appreciate I'm down as the colour commentator here, so I'm supposed to have the analysis like this. But a question about iRacing. Is there a limit on when you can serve your drive-through penalties? I know in a lot of games you have 5 laps or so. Is it just serve it at some point?
I think that's how it works. I know for some races it's kind of like you can have post-race penalties, but I mean, for all I know, I thought mostly you had to serve it like in the next 2 or 3 laps, but it looks like, yeah, it looks like for XTC you can just go to the end of the race, maybe serve it with coming to the white flag here. And actually, speaking of serving things on the white flag, I actually have choked away an F1 race before on the F1 2020 game. We were at the Vietnam circuit, and I didn't know I had to change tire compounds, so I didn't. And then I got a penalty on the white flag, and I was mad at myself.
Hey guys, we're looking here at Eduardo Pecorini right now, and I don't know. Last race these guys had at Interlagos, that's exactly what happened to Eduardo, which is why he lost the race. He had to serve his drive-through on the last lap, or be at risk of getting DSQ'd. So he had to come through at the end of the race, and that's why he got passed by those 2 drivers.
Okay, so I think with that assumption, thank you for clearing that up, Adam. I think with that assumption, or no, that knowledge, we can kind of assume that you can go up until the last lap before you serve a drive-through penalty. So I think that could be what Bergstrom and Ross are trying to do here.
Oh, and Bobby Ross has had an incident.
Yeah, this is coming down the back straightaway towards turn 12. It looks like he gets onto the brakes just like normal. And it doesn't hit the curb again, goes a little wide, it gets back on the throttle, and heads towards turn 13 now. And it looks like he's got it. He's got it still here, and it looks like he could have just might have gone slow here through one of the corners, and it looks like he still is okay. It's actually something could have happened to Frank Appa here.
Let's have a look. It would be a little bit uncharacteristic as Danny to always just overcooked it on the brakes, and that corner, it is uphill. It is a blind corner essentially. Half the corners of the circuit are blind, and it is impossible, particularly with in some of the tin top cars when you've got that big window shield. I don't know what it's called, the cotton that blocks your view of the apex of some of the corners. It's very easy to do, and particularly when you're an hour and 12 minutes in, it can be quite difficult.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, for some of these guys that haven't taken tires, or at least have taken tires a while back, they've got to be probably starting to struggle here, as it looks like Grant Turner has decided to stay out a little bit longer than Paul Mikulajczyk here. I'm actually not sure if he's coming and made a stop, but not in danger of getting a drive-through penalty, so Grant Turner can just hang out up here, currently with the lead, but I think he could have to pit again, but I'm not quite sure, and if he doesn't have to pit again, he could have very well stolen this race from Paul Mikulajczyk.
He might well have done. And, well, poor Mikolajczyk, we know has taken tyres in this race, so he should be faster if Grant Turner hasn't taken tyres. But 24 seconds in 15 minutes or so is not the easiest accomplishment. You're looking at more than a second a lap, essentially. There's well more than 24 laps to go here as we get into the evening. The in-game time, I can tell you, is just about 8 o'clock. It's 10 past 8 in the game, which means the track temperature is cooling ever so slightly, which, whilst I don't, as I said, I debate, I know I will debate with anyone, it's actually the track temperature looks static, so completely ignore me. Apparently the laws of physics do not apply to iRacing, Alex.
Well, judging off a lot of the things I've seen on iRacing, I'm not shocked. I mean, I've gotten hit in the back bumper and then suddenly flown to the moon, so not really surprised by that. But the late settings are going into night here at COTA. That means the track is cooling down. So I mean, if you're Grant Turner, you're good on fuel, but you're worrying about your tires. I don't think when it gets later at night, I don't think you would need to be worrying about your tires that much, because as the track cools down, it'll start to cool your tires down ever so slightly from the temperature that they're at, especially down these straightaways here. So even with all the pressure you're putting on these tires, as it gets later into the night, it's going to be easier to drive around this track on a cooler racetrack to be able to make your tires go a bit longer here. So I think that's what Turner is betting on, that with the track cooling down, he's not going to have to take tires, and if he does have to pit, it will only be for maybe 2 or 3 gallons of fuel to just get him to the end.
That being said, though, again, I will strongly debate until I'm blue in the face that I don't think that has too much of a difference. Of course, so in a 24-hour race, for example, when I did like my Le Mans event, we found that yes, actually, triple stinting during the night was a little bit more doable because of the cooler temperatures as Grant Turner comes in. However, that's because at Le Mans, this was in the middle of July, we had real weather on, so you go from 2 o'clock in the afternoon when it's boiling hot, heatwave in Europe at the time, of course, to 2 in the morning when it's a nice cool 15 degrees. That is a significant difference, and that will affect how the tyres behave on the road. However, here, we've only had an hour and a half. That is absolutely nothing in terms of how the conditions change, and even though we're getting towards sunset, the track, as we've seen by the information, hasn't cooled as much as it perhaps could have. So I think here that actually the track temperature point is a little bit of a mute one. I would contend that it doesn't make that much of a difference at all, or particularly not as much of a difference as we perhaps sometimes let on. I think that it's very much a little bit. It's a consideration, of course, as the track cools and the times are going to naturally come down a little bit, but I don't think it has much of an effect on the tyres per se. And as well, I don't think we're doing long enough stints for it to have an effect on the tyres.
You never know, though, as actually Eric Whitner and Kerry Cantera come into the pits for what I presume is their final pit stop. So we get some more track facts on the left. Last time we pulled this up, it said the track temp was 83 degrees Fahrenheit. Now it's 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So this track is definitely starting to cool down as we move later into the night. So, I mean, like you said, it might not be that big of a factor, but it could very well start to affect these cars just a little bit, as it looks like Eric Whitner has already gotten out of the pits, but Kerry Cantera is still stationary in his pit stall, as here comes Frank Appa to go around Paul Mikolajczyk again, as Kerry Cantera is still stationary in his pit stall. I'm not sure what could have happened to him. I mean, he's just kind of having a party down there, just sitting there. I mean, I wonder if he's flashing his headlights, maybe just trying to have a little bit of fun there, as we know he's a bit of a fun driver. As Alec Bergstrom has gotten another...
Sorry, it's me again. Of course I cut you off when we saw Alec Bergstrom get another drive-through penalty, which he's going to have to serve. But I have gotten the points finally here, and I want to bring up the GT3 points real quick, just to show you what this is going to mean for some of the drivers. Right now, Alec Bergstrom's in the lead with Eduardo winning. So that could be a little interesting. But when we go over here to the GT4s, I've been talking with Rob a little bit. So Michael Dowling up there in first place at the moment, and there are drop weeks, and Rob has already used his. So With Michael Dalling having 89 and Rob only having 78, he did not complete enough laps tonight to even give himself partial points. So you can see here, with me obviously not racing and in here doing the production side, Grant Turner, James Keir, Paul Mikolajczyk, who is winning the race, really have a great chance to make some big points and probably get a pretty big jump here on Rob, who is clearly one of the faster drivers in the GT4 class.
We're still going to claim that you've bottled this championship, Adam, even though mitigating circumstances do apply. But yes, the points at this stage in the season, this is, it's a fairly long season, isn't it, XTC? You've got, I'm counting the rounds here, you've got, 10. I want to say 10 rounds, yeah. So another 90-minute coming up at the end of the season. This is the halfway point of the season. This is where you want to be making up that ground. As apparently Dillon has also used his drop week.
Yeah,
so it's particularly bad for both of them.
The one question I do have is whether or not Michael Dalling has gotten enough laps for him to get partial points down there in P7, but like Adam said, Paul Mikolajczyk is going to get a great jump up here if he can maintain that spot and win the race in the final 11 minutes here tonight. So if Paul Mikolajczyk can maintain this spot, as we see Grant Turner over in the background there, could really shoot these two drivers, and James Keir as well could shoot these guys way up in the point standings, which would really help them come towards the end of the season, because it's a free race's worth of points over your nearest competitor.
Yes, I apologise. I'm typing a message to Adam there that I haven't quite been able to send yet. I will do in a moment. Don't worry, Adam, it's nothing bad. As James Keir we see coming round in third position, a little bit down on Grant Turner. He's closing that gap, I believe, Alex. James Keir might have a go at this towards the end of the race.
And it looks like we're trying to get a view so we can see the time comparison. Looks like Adam's having a bit of fun there in our virtual production truck. There it is. So it looks like Keir pitted on lap 33, but coming to lap 34, which I think might be a little bit off, as it does say... Oh wait, no, never mind, it's not off. The GT4 cars are a few laps down. So for lap 34 for the GT4 cars, it looks like Grant Turner was 1.4 seconds faster, almost 1.5 seconds faster than James Keir. So, I think, or slower, excuse me, yes, not faster, slower. Yeah, so Grant Turner was a bit slower on lap 34 for these guys, which does mean that, I mean, if James Keir keeps his head down, he might have a shot at Grant Turner come the end of the race. Do you think he can get there? Oh, voice crack.
Yes, I do think he can, and I want to suggest he's actually taken tyres, James Keir. Am I not mistaken? It's been difficult to keep track of everything that's been going on. It's a shame that we don't have a sort of graphic for that, but I don't think with that high tech with the on the iRacing. Oh wow! The news I've just had in my ear is so exciting indeed that we do in fact have a graphic for that, and Adam Thompson behind the scenes is working away, trying to figure it out. Here are 3 stops. It's not quite giving me the information I wanted, but we're close enough. We're getting there. We're on the right path, Alex.
Yes, Adam is trying his hardest to work on that. And James Keir, I mean, he's closing the gap a little bit. He's gotten it down 2/10 this lap, but with only 8 minutes remaining in this race, just over 8 minutes remaining. I don't know. I mean, through this last twisty section, he closes the gap quite a lot, but that twisty section doesn't come up that often, and with the way these guys are driving here, we'll have to see the last... They're going at around 2 minutes 16, 2 minutes 17 second laps. I want to say off of math that that's only around 4 or 5 laps remaining, so unless James Keir really gets his head in the game, I'm not sure if he can close that gap.
But as he starts putting on that pressure, Grant Turner is going to be more likely to make some mistakes. This time round, it hasn't been quite so blistering from James Keir. So 2:17.3. He's got 8 minutes left in the race, hasn't he? So that's going to be 4 laps. It will be 3 or it will be yes, 3 laps, I suspect, to the end of this race. Of course, give or take a little bit as we wait for Edoardo Pecorini, who is essentially nailed on to win this race now, barring any significant issues, as providing he might force them to do another lap, perhaps. However, we'll go with 3 laps at the moment as an assumption. He's going to have to pull about a second and a half a lap, I think, here, James Kirser, which at the moment he isn't doing particularly well. But as that lap times, as they come down, as he gets a little bit faster, there's a potential that Grant Turner can get forced into a mistake here.
Well, you know what? I think after you saying that Edoardo Pecorini's nailed to win this race, I think maybe going through a corner, I think his right rear tire could just possibly vanish into thin air.
Yes, did
So
you see what I did there on purpose? As he was
I
3
think
seconds a lap faster
maybe.
on the previous lap than Alec Bergstrom, which is just incredible to me. Bergstrom is slightly nursing towards the end here, though. I feel he's got 28 seconds to Bobby Ross behind him, and he knows that both him and Bobby Ross, he's only got 7 more incident points ahead of him. Bobby Ross has only got 6 more incident points, as we see James Kirser making a little bit of a mistake onto the curb. Bobby Ross 2 seconds slower than Edoardo Pecorini on the previous lap. So really, I think they're nursing home. Eric Whitner is 1 point away from disqualification.
Oh, he's riding the line of staying into this race for the final few minutes here. I want to keep an eye on him. I want to keep an eye on him and see what happens here as he heads through the final couple of corners through 17 now. He's just really being really cautious with it, not going anywhere near the curbs on entry and exit. We have to see what he does through turn 18. It's like he's still just keeping it very cautious, not trying to get that final incident point, which would sideline him. And actually, Edoardo Pecorini is into the pit lane, and Alec Bergstrom, I think, is way too far back to even make a move to try and get around him. So I think Pecorini is going to be able to safely make his final pit stop of the night here as he breaks into his pit stall for the last time. To just put a little bit more fuel into the car just to get him to the end of this race here. He's currently just hanging out. There he goes, already off pit lane. So Alec Bergstrom wasn't even close enough to really have a shot at that. Edoardo Pecorini, if he doesn't make any mistakes, which it's Edoardo Pecorini, I don't think he'll come even close. Looks like he's going to get... Actually, no, we missed it. Eric Whitner. He's got his 34th incident point. If you look on the screen there, he has 34 incident points, and he hasn't been disqualified.
Right.
Oh, so actually, Adam just told us that he has to get 35 incident points to get that extra drive-through. He has to go over 34 for him to get disqualified. So now, in the final 4 minutes of this race, he has to really be careful if he doesn't want to get eliminated.
Well, in my defence, I read 34 times equals disqualification and took it as gospel, but I can see now that 34 more. Anyway, Bobby Ross is into the pits for his final splash and dash, and it wouldn't be GT3 racing without some manic splash and dashes towards the end of the race. Pecorini, 42 seconds that gap. That is incredible. I don't think it's been more dominant than that, and he would pick up a Grand Slam here today as well, wouldn't he, if he's going to continue this on? It'd be a more impressive Grand Slam than the other ones, because he's had to do it for a longer time. He might have a slightly smaller field, but he's had to do it for a very long time indeed, and I think that will just add to how impressive that is, with less incident points than anyone else in the field except for Kerry Cantor. Oh, that's a lie. McTavish only on 4 incident points, and Mika, the number 1 car in the lead of the race, only 9 incident points to his name. So I don't know what Glenn McTavish has been doing, but he's been doing well. He's got 4 incident points and is 4th in the race. He's doing something right.
Yeah, he's found speed without having to go off the racing surface. So Edoardo Pecorini is going to take what I presume is 2 laps to go here as this race starts to wind down. I think really the only... Oh, actually, Glenn McTavish finally just got his 5th incident point there off the curb of turn 19. Of course, as soon as you mention it, Tom. Yeah, but It looks like really the one thing that I really want to keep an eye on is Eric Whitner. He has about a lap and a half to try and not get any more incident points here in that number 17 car.
I have just had confirmation, Alex, from Rob, that it should have been 34. He set it wrong, apparently. So what it is, we haven't got a clue. It could be anything at this stage. But he's going to go for a brave one. And if he is as close, he knows it. He knows he's close to disqualification because he backed well out of that one.
Yeah, so it says that the incident count DQ limit is 34. So I think you can hit 34, but as soon as you go past that, you're done. So I think Whitner, he didn't want to go for that move to the inside because he knows if he screws up anything, he's out of the race. And coming to his second to last lap, unless Pecorini gets around him, it'll be his last lap, which honestly, if he doesn't want to struggle, if I'm him, I'm letting Eduardo Pecorini by just so that way I'm only on the last lap, yeah. But Eduardo Pecorini, fantastic performance.
Seriously, I would be surprised if he doesn't pull over, because unless that in itself gives him an incident point, it's not worth the risk for Eric Whitner, and I think this is what we're going to see here. He's got to pull over, perhaps on the straight. Just make sure that Eduardo Pecorini is ahead of you heading into the line. This is really quite a tense situation for Eric Whitner. He is going to have to get out of the way, Alex.
This is the race.
There we go. He's got to get out of the way, surely.
Yeah, this is the race. So Eric Whitner is going to take his last lap, and now we have to see if he can drive cleanly for 2 minutes here, as Eduardo Pecorini takes the white flag. So now we have to see if Eric Whitner can drive cleanly for 2 minutes, or will he get sent to the Shadow Realm here, as Paul Mikolajczyk is still going to have another lap to complete here, I think. Maybe not, but I mean, the final 20 seconds of this race, the final lap of this race, I mean, what do we have to make all of this? And really, the dominance of that 47 car. We talk about it every week, but Eduardo has just been completely on it tonight.
Well, when your drop week is last week, essentially, he had a poor race at Long Beach as well, didn't he? But when you've had two relatively difficult performances, Eduardo Pecorini, and even Long Beach, he finished on the podium, didn't he? But a couple of difficult weeks with Alec Bergstrom just being on top. For Eduardo Pecorini to pick himself up and win in such dominant fashion, it says 25 seconds, but I believe it's 45. I don't think he's lost 25 seconds in the last lap.
He did have to pit there.
Oh, right. It was chopping and changing on my screen. It went from 25 seconds to 45, like 3 times. So, anyway.
I guess the overlays are a little tired as well.
26 seconds. Is he's weathered so many storms so far this season, after looking like he should have surely been a dominant, easy champion, and it hasn't quite been so easy for him. But as we approach the halfway stage of the season, and in fact this end of this race will be exactly halfway in the season, he's going to prove that he is well and truly the favourite to take home this crown. I'll let you sing him across the line, Alex.
You want me to start singing? Because I could if we really want to ruin this, but a fantastic drive from Eduardo Pecorini, gets one final incident point for good measure, and around the last corner he comes. Eduardo Pecorini is your winner for the first hour and a half race of the season here in the Cross Touring Cup, and Paul Mikolajczyk is going to have to sit around for another lap. And look at that, Eric Whitner didn't get sent to the Shadow Realm there. He made it a complete lap without getting another incident point. So great job, Eric Whitner, you did it. You came up without getting disqualified, riding the line of 34 incident points. But here comes Alec Bergstrom across the line. Fantastic fight all night. He ends up in P2. Kerry Cantera crosses the line to finish 5th in GT3s. Grant Turner and James Keir come across the line to finish 2nd and 3rd, respectively, for GT4s. And now we have to see, here's where Bobby Ross is. Bobby Ross is just heading into turn 13 now. Here he is in this Mercedes. An up and down day for this driver. Ended up battling with Alec Bergstrom early. Ends up falling back to 3rd through the pit cycle. but he's rebounded it, he's kept it on the podium, and he's kept himself on top of it, even with a couple of drive-through penalties to boot. But he's going to round turn 18 for the final time, and then into the final 2 corners. And we're really just waiting him onto the brakes for turn 19. Smooth, calm, just trying to finish out the race here. Onto the brakes for the final time tonight into turn 20. And Bobby Ross is going to round the last corner to end up in 3rd in class. Frank Appa down there in P6 overall still has to take the checkered flag here as he heads into turn 19 for the last time. And Paul Mikolajczyk, I believe he's currently just being chased by Eduardo Pecorini for fun back there, currently heading into turn 17 and towards 18 now. But here comes Frank Appa, the final GT3 driver to finish out the night here. And here's Paul Mikolajczyk being encouraged along by Eduardo Pecorini behind him. It looks like these two are just hanging on the throttle, just watching this McLaren round the last couple of corners. It's been an up and down day all day for Paul Mikolajczyk, fighting with Michael Dalling and Robert Schwenkler. But he's ended up on top at the end of the day. Paul Mikolajczyk rounds the last corner to win the race for the GT4 class, and that is now everybody across the line here tonight. And that was a really good race, honestly, from these guys. I really enjoyed that. Here's your finishing results. Paul Mikolajczyk wins the race, and it looks like he actually lapped the field here. And it looks like Eric trying to do burnouts in the background, I think, as Grant Turner, an up and down battle day all day for him, had to fight with James Keir for that one, ends up P2. James Keir ends up P3. Glenn McTavish in 4th, the lowest instant points of the field, mind you. Rob Neville in 5th, Jerry DiPiero in 6th. Michael Dalling unfortunately ran out of fuel and called it quits there in 7th. And Robert Schwenkler, his power said no, and he ends up in last for the GT4 class there in P8. And then on to GT3, if we can get that pulled up. Eduardo Pecorini, the dominating performance there in the number 47 car. He wins the race by 27 seconds over Alec Bergstrom. Bobby Ross ends up in P3. Eric Whitner ends up in 4th. Kerry Cantera ends up in 5th. Frank Appa in 6th. And Robbie Shin rounds out our field in 7th for the GT3. So, what do you say we get to some interviews? I think it's about time for these guys, as looks like we're going to be able to drag in the winner in dominating fashion for the GT3 class. And, I actually think I might have messed it up a little bit. There he is. There is Eduardo Pecorini. And, wow, what a dominating performance from yourself tonight, Eduardo.
Hi, Alex. Thanks. Yeah, it looked that way, but wasn't that straightforward. Alec was doing a great race, saving fuel, and he was doing one less pit stop. So I was pushing all the time, trying to make the gap and being sure that I was ahead of him after my last pit stop.
Yeah, and you did a great job for yourself there. I mean, that was just a fantastic drive. And I mean, with the dynamic hour and a half, I mean, just looking at the replays here for the interview section, it's just the start of the race was so light out on track. Looked like it was the middle of the day. Then it looked like you guys had to almost have your headlights on for the end of the night or the end of the race. So, I mean, how was it out there? I mean, what did the track feel like over the course of that race? How different was it from the start to the end?
Yeah, the track changes a lot. Temperature drops. But the main issue here is that depending on the light, you cannot see your brake marks. So it starts to get tricky to brake on the sweet spot. So it gets tricky, but the track goes faster, but you have to be careful.
Yeah, and I mean, you were obviously dealing with it fantastically. Anybody you want to thank here?
Thank you, man. Yeah, everyone at the league, XTC, and always shouting out for Risa guys. They are the school that we started from. So a big thanks for everyone.
Yeah, and well, I'm going to drag you back into the waiting rooms. Congrats on your win tonight. You did a great job out there.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks.
Yep. So have a good night. Hope to see you
Yeah.
in here in 2 weeks from. I'm actually not sure what our next race is here, but hope to see you then.
Sure.
And now, Tom, I'll let you take our winner for the GT4 class, Paul Mikolajczyk.
Hello.
Perhaps, hello, welcome to the stream. Please don't swear. Is perhaps not the way you wanted to win it with the misfortunes of Robert and his power issues. I'm not sure if you knew they were power issues, but that's why he suddenly DNF'd. But regardless, you put yourself into the position, and it wasn't easy for you at all. But you got the win, and you must be chuffed with that.
Yeah, it's been like 15 races or so. It's nice to win in my own actual league, so that's pretty neat. I know.
Oh no, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, Rob had the power issue, and then I think Michael unfortunately forgot the pit, and he ran out of fuel and towed.
Yes, he did, and that put him out of the race. But finally a win, and maybe this is you building a little bit of form as we head into the second half of the season.
Yeah, there's a few tracks there later in the season I really like. I really like Watkins Glen, and Le Mans always fun, especially in the McLaren. The McLaren has so much more top end speed than the other ones. It should be fun.
Did that top end speed give you any advantage this evening, given the straights, and particularly when you were perhaps having some battles? And did that top end speed just give you a little bit of help?
Oh, it was real nice in a straight line, and under braking it was really nice. But through the technical stuff, it's like the 2018 Williams, man. It's just a big boat just trying to get through there. It's so long and clunky.
Yes, and well, thank you very much for joining us, Paul, and hopefully this can be a little bit of an upturn in form at the start of something very good for you.
Thank you.
Was Paul Mikolajczyk the race winner in GT4, and with that we can give you the upcoming streams, and I have this on my screen as you can join us tomorrow for WSRL with LMP2s and GT3s, a proper sports car championship, and simultaneously you can join myself, and I believe Alex won't be there for that one, but you can join me and someone else for AMS at Barber Motorsports Park in the Mustang FR500s. Both of those start around the same time, 8:45 for WSRL and AMS at 9:05. Then on Thursday it is the Spec 5 Championship at 9:15 Eastern Time. The Mazda MX-5s there at Spa. That should be an unbelievable race. And then there's some dirt racing. The Dirt Sprint 410 at Eldora at 8:10 PM on Sunday in XSLR. And Alex, if the racing of tonight is anything to go by, the rest of the week on SMB should be pretty incredible.
Oh, definitely. And one quick thing before we round out the stream, I want to mention Robert has just confirmed to us that he can't make this up. His power came on right at the checkered flag. So, I mean, that's just the worst for Robert Schwenkler. But, I mean, I thought that was just a great race. I mean, we had some fun up here in the booth, but there were always great battles to cover throughout the entire race. I mean, Tom, what did you think of that as we look to end off the stream here shortly?
I thought it was really entertaining, and I'd quite like to see more longer races. Not longer races, as in I would like to see more races of this format. So I thought it added a very interesting dynamic to the series.
All right, well, next time we'll see you is tomorrow night for 2 leagues, but that's going to do it for us. This has been Slow Motion Broadcasting's coverage of Round 5 of Season 1 of the Cross Touring Cup from Circuit of the Americas. My name is Alex Andersen. I have been joined in the commentary booth by Tom Dillon with Adam Thompson, our virtual production truck. Have a good night, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow.